What the fuck? Okay, now we echoing. Let me use my. What's up, Janae and fam from Discord? I don't know exactly how to say your name. If you wanna unmute yourself and we can actually. I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Hey, Zach. Hey.
What's up?
Nothing. Yeah, it's me and Shannon over here.
Oh, okay. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well.
All right.
Happy to see y'all in here.
Yep. We had the support. We're excited.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Yeah, this is Kush. I'm good. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. Happy to have you up in here, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Do I say is it Saru? Is that
Hello, my name is Shiro.
Shiro?
She
Okay. Shiro.
the
Hello,
Kenyan
nice to
name.
meet you, Shiro.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So yeah, we're just trying to give people some more time to get in here. So we'll try to start around 1:15 and then we'll let people join in as they can.
Sounds good.
Just so y'all know, like, I appreciate y'all on the Discord for setting that up. I hope that we do accomplish our goals of 500,000 people. Uh, so like, I already feel as though it's gonna be something very productive. I just hope it's that we could possibly make some moves like those folks in the GameStop Reddit, how they did.
Exactly. Exactly. That's and it's funny that you say that because I had the idea maybe like a week or 2 weeks before that happened.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, these guys are doing exactly what I was thinking we need to do is basically galvanize our people and then focus on something we want to do and then go after it. And we don't need anybody's permission to do that. We
Exactly.
just need the community, the hive, for us to come together and say, yeah, okay, we're going to buy this land, we're going to build things on this land, and we're going to do amazing things on that land. And that's the beginning of everything. So when I saw that happen with the GameStop, I was like, wow, okay, this is big. And now it seems like a lot of people are doing that now. And from a financial perspective, because of COVID, they've lost their jobs. So
Hmm.
the little money they have, what they're trying to do is reinvest it so they can get more money, either in cryptocurrency or in stocks. So these are the things we can do to empower ourselves. I spoke to myself and Cyril. We were on a Zoom call last weekend with the people who built Ubricoin. Ubricoin is a cryptocurrency made in Kenya
Hmm.
and is on Coin Market Cap. So right now, what they want is to try to get more Africans to adopt it, so that way it starts to gain in value. So once we get the numbers, we can literally get something that is literally less than 1 cent, and then buy in at at the cheapest price, and then make it go up to $1, and then every single one of us will be made of money. We'll be literally smelling of money. You know, what I mean, we'll be loaded.
Hmm.
And then what we do with that money is the real test of who we are. If we go sell it, if we use that money to go buy flashy cars, all these meaningless things for the Western, people to them institutions to just benefit from financially, then that's not good. However, if we use that money that we make to do great things, to leave a legacy for our future generations, then that is a game changer. That's when we're really conscious of what we're supposed to do with the money that we make. So it's about making money, but it's also about what we do with the money. So we know that money is a tool.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what I
the.
mean?
I feel like that's the part that it builds a disconnect with some people sometimes, where you get so caught up with things being. Oh my bad. I feel like sometimes we get a disconnect with what's the purpose behind all the money. Like if you just giving it right back to the system that's perpetuating your own destruction, like the book that we about to, no pun intended, but um, just it doesn't make sense if you accumulate all that money and you don't do anything that really empowers your people at the end of the day. I think you were muted, bro. Let me turn my video on.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was on mute. So I don't know if you can see me. I work in the financial sector. I work in an investment banking. So I know to some degree the influences they have on economies globally. And basically, we're living in a world where it's ultimately controlled by cartel.
Right,
So, for example, right now, if I wanted to use my money to go buy Bitcoin, I can't do that from Canada because all the banks have kind of come together to say, okay, we're not going to let people put money into exchanges. So this is the cartel. I work for that money, and they're telling me what I can do with my money. That's madness. So what they're trying to do is tell other countries, and like in, say, for example, Nigeria, they're telling the government, like, listen, you got to tell your people, you got to tell your people that they're not allowed to buy crypto. So they're trying to make the banks make it illegal for people to buy cryptocurrency. Again, this is all a setup because they know if people start to adopt cryptocurrency, what's going to happen to the fiat currency, the dollar? It becomes irrelevant. They
right.
have no control. They cannot tell us what to do, and then ultimately they have no power. So they're going to create a narrative that is not good for you, is not stable, but really and truly, it's them that is not stable. It's a cartel with the Rockefellers and all these other 1% families who own basically the world. So we need to come together and start to encourage cryptocurrency and to build our own um, infrastructures from healthcare, Afrocentric education, even our own military defense. We need a whole overhaul of the system we have right now, where we are pandering to wherever the West tells us to do in Africa, and ultimately we need an alliance where all nations of African descent must come as one and to create their own system to counter the current system we have today. And this is the legacy we need to pass on to our children so
Hmm.
that they can then um, really start to bring in that vision that we are trying to create right now.
With the way it is right now and the way they indoctrinate us as kids, it's like always talk about free trade, but then when you see stuff like this happens, and then they try to stop all the trades, or like how you were mentioning with the bank cartels and whatnot, like how is that exactly a real free trade at the end of the day? Um, but yeah,
Right.
I saw in the Discord, man. I was telling you, like whenever if you ever get the chance, because I personally I need a study group for this one right here, man. Like I know everybody's not ready for this one just yet. Because this thing, man.
I
We
got the same thing, bro. I got
yeah,
one. I got one. That's my Bible right here, bro.
facts.
That's my Bible. I mean, I've got this. I've got a Luja, which is basically talking about how West Africans migrated from East Africa, from Kemet, Kush, So I've got so many books. I've got the How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney.
I got that. I'm reading that one right now. Mhm.
Yeah, so these books wake us up, and they basically help us to know who we were, and then to carry on our purpose on this earth, because we've been here before. We are our ancestors. We are them. So
Exactly.
once we know our history, we are compelled to do the things we're doing right now. It's not like it's by choice. Is by is a calling. Is our destiny. It's preordained. It's in our DNA because all that information is there. It's just dormant. So we just need to tap in.
Um, Not to put bro on the spot, but I also want to give him just a shout out. And one of the participants, his name is Jahudi. He's in here, man. I love what he's doing as well. He's got something called the Susu Society, Right, he's really just bringing us together. It's like a so far I went to the last meeting and got some like accountability partners to keep me on like my goals and whatnot, and all of us just bringing whatever talents that we have, whatever gifts that we want to give back to the communities, our people,
Right,
and
right,
everything. So like what he's got going on, like I feel like it aligns with what we also trying to like. Everybody's just trying to bring everybody together and see like
exactly.
what exactly can we bring to the table and be on like some self-sufficient stuff. So we don't necessarily like people always talk about defund and I'm not gonna go on a tangent because I know we still getting people coming in. And I do want to get to the actual presentation and talk with you guys and so we can all connect with one another. But I feel like when people talk about defund the police, I feel like we're missing the aspect of like you have to be self-sufficient to be able to like show that you don't necessarily need those things. And not necessarily, I don't know if anybody's thoughts are aligned on that, but it's just for me, it seems as though we need to just get to being self-sufficient so that you're not so dependent on your oppressor at the end of the day. And
Facts.
like so it's that's what I love about stuff like this and meeting everybody. I know I see like I feel like everybody in here has something we can bring to the table. So um
Yeah,
it is 1:21. We're scheduled until 3:30. Not saying it's gonna last that long or be too short or anything, but Jalen, are we good or what you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking we're good to go ahead and at least start the presentation and then let people join in as they come in. Um, but Tolu, would you want to give just a short rundown of what you're doing over there
yeah,
with the Discord?
yeah. Okay. So the goal is right is to basically carry on what Marcus Garvey was trying to do. Um, I've been on Instagram for about a year now, and trying to just spread the knowledge. But every time I try to get people to then take action, let's do something. Everybody goes MIA. They're
Mm.
missing in action. Nothing's happening, and I'm frustrated with that. So I thought, okay, you know what? Something needs to give, and Instagram started to shadow ban my content. So it was really bad in 2021, like really like starting 2021, it got really bad. So I needed to find a new way to connect with my people and only my people because on social media, everybody sees what we post. Everybody. So, the Chinese, they did their thing. Nobody knew what they were doing. Now look at them. But
Mm-hmm.
for us, we're too transparent. Everybody knows our pain, our feelings, everything on social media. So if we now start to come together on one platform and it's personal, it's private, only for us, we can begin the conversation of how we begin to heal as a people and how we can become truly Africans. Because genetically we're Africans, but mentally we are Europeans. We are because
Mm-hmm.
we've been indoctrinated. So we need to begin that journey of healing mentally so we can fully function in our true ways. So what I'm thinking is like, how can we come together? So I thought Discord is a good app. Is it provides a platform where we can communicate, collaborate, and the fact is we can also have conversations on there of up to 5,000 people listening in or joining the conversation at any time. So as the community grows, I'm hoping it's just going to become an organic entity on itself where everybody is just chiming in at any second. It's just thriving. And as that grows, um, I'm trying to gather a team. I've got um, some gems at the moment who are with me. Siru is one of them. Um, I got Africa Maga as well, and my business partner, my best friend, he's also part of it as well. But we're looking for more leaders because the whole concept is um, previously we would have leaders, we would only have one leader, and then they would take that leader out, and then the whole vision and plan dies with that leader.
Mm-hmm.
However, if we start to cultivate everybody as leaders, so that means we have to leave our ego at the door because it's about everybody. So it's about the bigger picture because everybody has a goal, everybody has a plan, and we must work together to manifest those goals. So I'm trying to get women, men like us, to come together, have conversations, be strategic, and then to execute. And to execute with little financial pressure on anyone individually. Because as a demographic, financially, um, as a group, we're wealthy, but as an individual, we are very restricted financially. So what I'm trying to do now is think of ways of how can we plan things. Say we want to build our own app, or maybe build an innovation center that rivals Silicon Valley or any other innovation center in the world. What can we do? So I'm thinking, okay, minimum we need is 500,000 people. So worst case scenario, 500,000 people, like-minded, all giving $1. That's all they have to do. That's 500,000. We can buy massive hectares of land in Africa and start to do amazing things. We can then say, okay, we want to go again. Yeah. Maybe by then we got to 1 million people following us, or in the community. We can then say, okay, we want to do something really big, and people can give between $1 to $5. So that's the size, that's the price of a Starbucks coffee. But now, because we are consciously cultivating our expertise, our finances to do real meaningful things, and manifesting them, we now have receipts. We now have meaningful things. So one of the things we're trying to do right now in the next month or so is to build a website where we have a face, and we will have them where people can log in and see what's actually going on from the community. So there'll be an outside access, and there'll also be a private where you have a login to basically know what's going on in detail. But the idea is we can start to organize, have conversations, strategize on what we need, what are the priorities we need to focus on. So the things we're thinking about right now is an educational app, because we need to educate our people, especially the youth. So say by the time in 10 years time, we have new people who are already conscious from birth in terms of mindset, who are ultimately going to take over in the future from what we're doing. So we're trying to funnel that vision and to make sure we are grooming our children to have the right mindset. And then secondly is ultimately to build things we know we can impact change in the Americas, either in the in the USA, Brazil, the Caribbean, and Africa. And ultimately the goal is to start to build an institutions whereby we educate our people. We have ways of, in terms of healthcare system, we start to formalize that from a Dr. Sabi mindset, where it's all about natural herbs and not synthetic. And
Right.
then the other one is defense. We need to start thinking about defense. We need to have some form of defense, and ultimately we need to start probably with some investing in the militia in some way that can help us to grow and protect our people. And then ultimately, we will have enough power to dictate who is going to be in power in Africa or in any Caribbean country, because there must be a people who, there must be leaders who are going to speak and represent the people, not the West or the Asian institutions. So we need to start cultivating power. This is what the um, um, Dr. Amos Wilson is all about. How do we start to cultivate power? So this is how we start the conversation, by doing having meetings like this, and then deciding on the strategy, and then most importantly, executing and manifesting those decisions. So we begin to shape our future rather than letting big pharma or government decide, oh, you guys need to take vaccines. It's good for you. We don't need their vaccines. We're not the same kind of people as them. We are different. So they need to know that. And we need to start telling the world who we are as a people, so that we are in control of our own destiny. So I hope that gives you a snapshot of where I'm trying to take things, and I think everyone's on the same page there, really, from what I've seen so far.
Word, most definitely. Thank you. That gives us great insight. And maybe people can get in contact with you, or maybe you can post a link in the chat where
Yeah,
people
yeah,
can click to join and join the
yeah.
Discord.
Everybody join and everybody see Discord as your own family. Is so take ownership, show
Mhm.
leadership. So we want to see who comes to the fore, who stands out. So then we start to say, okay, you got a great message, you got a great mentality. We need you to speak. We need you to represent. We need you to discuss and shape the future of the community, shape the future of our people. So we are trying. We don't want people just to join and then they come back in a week later. We want people to really start to share knowledge, educate everyone, and then to shape the conversations, and
I'm
invite
good.
other people. So everyone take ownership.
I
So
would
I'll,
be in
I'll
that a lot.
post it. Yeah,
Word. Thank you.
It seems as though like when we just continue to have these conversations and build off of one another, like we just have so many different platforms, you know, like Instagram, Clubhouse, Zoom, Discord. Like once we start getting all the like-minded people together, and we really gonna make something happen.
facts.
I'm with you on that. My IG's been shadow banned all 2020. like,
Yeah,
like it got shadow banned. I know it has, but um, let's see.
All right.
And what you ready, Jalen?
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready to get started.
I appreciate you
So,
doing that, bro.
yeah, thank you for that, Tolu.
yeah. Appreciate
Uh,
you guys.
of course. So, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jalen, and this is my brother Zach, and we have created this book club called Unlocked. Some of y'all have been here before and know what we're about. Some of y'all don't. So, we're going to give y'all a short rundown of what we intend to do here on Unlocked, and give you a rundown of why what we're doing here is significant and what kind of books we're going to read. We'll give you a short introduction on the destruction of Black civilization, which is the book that we'll be reading for Black History Month. And we'll also talk about a schedule for reading. So right now we don't have any we didn't have anybody read anything for this meeting. So it's really just an introduction, maybe giving us a chance to get to know each other better and to really connect on a deeper level.
Right. Uh, personally, I want to just go ahead and start off. It's just setting intention. Go ahead and just go ahead and thank our creator, the ancestors, our elders, and everybody who's gotten us to where we are today. As mentioned, we got Amos Wilson, the Chancellor Williams, who we reading today, John Henrik Clark, Dr. Ben. Um, yeah, help me out, Jalen. There's so many names. Dr. Francis Cress Wilson.
Malcolm X, Henry Sylvester, CLR James. Um, man, I feel like I'm about to say some names you already said. Baba Baruti, Marimba Ani, so many names. And these names will become more familiar to you as you continue to read with us and learn with us and as we grow together. So, I'm gonna start by getting into the presentation. And can everybody see my screen?
Yeah,
Everybody good? Cool. All
yeah,
right. So our vision here is to develop a diverse, well-informed network of revolutionary thinkers who find solutions to problems specific to people in the Pan-African diaspora. So we named our club Unlocked because there's a lot of information in books, but if we don't read these books and if we don't give the books the attention they deserve, we're not going to be able to utilize the power of the information that's in these books. So we want to unleash our hidden history. We want to unleash this knowledge that is trapped into books, and we want to use this knowledge as a proponent to for our liberation. So our slogan is Black liberation through education and putting solutions into actions.
So yeah, it's not just information for information purposes. Like we're not trying to have no jeopardy or something like that going on. Like King Kush was saying, we're trying to actually make stuff happen. You know, there's no sense of having all that information in your head and you just keep it to yourself. Like God created the universe, whatever you pray or honor to, did not give you your talents for no reason to keep to yourself. So
Um, so to continue, um, I know a lot of people are readers and a lot of people aren't readers. So here are just a couple tips that we came up with for people that don't read frequently and that are trying to get into reading. So, use your time wisely. Like reading is something that will fuel your mind, spirit, in all different types of ways. So also reading things that you're interested in will fuel your drive and your passion to read. You know, getting rid of distractions when you're reading is key because, you know, our phones, the television can draw our minds to something else that's not really as important as what we should be reading in these books. So here are just a couple tips we came up with. Nothing too serious. And here's a great quote by Carter G. Woodson. If you didn't know, Carter G. Woodson started Black History Month. He was also the second um, Black person to graduate from the University of Harvard. But he says, those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which becomes the teaching of biography and history. So he places a large emphasis on history and understanding our history so we know where we've been so we don't, you know, commit those same mistakes and we know how we need to move going forward into the future.
Sankofa.
All right. And, you know, there are a lot of books on the internet, and we want to bring to you different ways of consuming these books and finding these books. So there are a plethora of Black owned bookstores. They're just not really known about. If y'all are in the Atlanta area, there are a couple bookstores we want to highlight. One is Black Dot Cultural Center. Another is Medu Bookstore in Greenbrier Mall. Another one is the Nubian Bookstore in Morrow. And then there's another one, isn't there, Zach? That I'm forgetting.
Onyx.
Onyx. And where's that one located?
It's out in Conyers, I believe, somewhere on that side.
Okay.
But again, like there's some that I've also ordered from online as far as like Sankofa DC, SO1, and I mentioned yesterday there is the Marcus bookstore it's in California, but it's the oldest Black owned bookstore. It's named after Honorable Marcus Garvey. So those are like three that I know of. Oh, and there's Pan African Connection in Dallas, Texas.
Mm.
When I went out there, like that bookstore is amazing. Like it's the closest thing to Africa you'll get to in Texas. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, so we just recommend wherever you are, you know, do a little Google search, search Black owned bookstores and really try to buy books from there because, you know, we talk about economics and, you know, keeping our money within our communities. And this is just one way we can do that while also, you know, fueling our minds. So we think that's powerful. Also, audiobooks are a great way to consume books, whereas you can be doing a number of different things and listening to the book and you know, multitasking in a way. So one platform that me and Zach both use on a regular basis is Scribd. And Scribd is kind of like Netflix for audiobooks, but they also have ebooks. And I found ebooks on there that I can't find anywhere else. So I highly recommend getting a Scribd subscription. And there's a lot of information out there for people.
yeah, that's how I found Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's color confrontation theory, which basically set up her ISIS papers work material. So if also like for me personally, I actually have Audible and Scribd because I was like, I don't need my Netflix anymore because I know what entertainment really is now. Like the more I read, the more I started understanding how propaganda and this entertainment game really actually works for our mentals. So not saying anybody got to cancel their Netflix, but find your homeboy or your friend or somebody that can possibly let you use theirs, and maybe you could have both.
Yeah, and then just find new ways to entertain your mind. And that's kind of what we're trying to bring to people through our book club. And also, there's a great website called LibGen. If y'all go to Google and you type in LibGen, and it's an amazing resource for finding the PDFs, ebooks, all different types of books. But if you're interested in a book, and let's say you don't necessarily have the money to buy it, and you still want to get that information, I would highly recommend typing in LibGen and going on there to find books. And the books that we read here with Unlocked, we'll try to provide to y'all as well. Um, we will be sending, one second. We will be sending the ebook copy out. So, like for this presentation, we sent out a copy of the ebook. And if y'all didn't get that, just hit me or Zach up, and we can send you the PDF for the destruction of Black civilization.
Quick question, guys. Are you recording this? So we'd like
Yes.
to. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're
sir.
recording it. Okay, and then here's a quote by one of the late greats, Dr.
Great master
John,
teacher.
right? Dr. John Henry Clark. To control the people, you must first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history and culture. And when your conqueror makes you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison walls and no chains to hold you. So we're trying to break those chains here on Unlocked. And we're trying to bring y'all to information, Afrocentric information written by African authors that give you a true perspective of Africa, Africa's history, and Africa's culture. So we can begin to get back to a way of living that really supports us and fuels us and empowers us.
Exactly. Just I want to tap in on that just real quick, because I love how Jacob Carruthers put it in Intellectual Warfare, where when we base our history off of our oppressors' thinking, he says mid 18th century is when they started looking at Africa anthropologically versus historically. Therefore, they were looking at Africa in a primitive aspect as if they haven't evolved into something, whatever was going to be next, evolved, air quotes on that. So therefore it's imperative to look for our thinkers who actually will want to look at Africa in a historical aspect, or even people like Theophile Obenga, who actually is from Africa, like, and is a scholar and has went into these battles with these Eurocentric scholars and whatnot that can really guide us to our true light and whatnot, instead of looking at an anthropological outlook on our own history.
Mm.
So just adding that aspect in there
Yeah,
to
and definitely. And I want to mention the attack on our scholars. It is an intellectual warfare. So European scholars will try to downplay the work of our African scholars, and people will be more likely to listen to a European scholar than listen to someone that's their brother or their sister that has their
Mhm.
true interests at heart. So we're trying to bring these areas of thought to our people. All right. So, just a little background. We will be reading The Destruction of Black Civilization, Great Issues of a Race from 4500 BC to 2000 AD. So, Chancellor Williams, he lived from 1983 to 1992. That's a long life. That's about 100 years. He was a sociologist, historian, and writer. Um, and really, this is his major work. And he asserted the validity that Black Egyptians started ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, and it was a predominantly Black civilization. So he studied at Howard University, where he earned a degree in education, and he also got a master's in history. And then he went to go get a PhD in sociology from American University. He also went on to be a honorary professor at Oxford in London, and he also went back to Howard where he became a social science instructor. Later on, he went to teach history, and he was centered in Afrocentrism. And if you ask anybody, this book, anybody, most people that are Black leaders, this book is going to be on their reading list. It's one of the probably the critical readings for Black people across the globe. So we kind of wanted to break the ice a little bit, and just go around and see what people's favorite Black history facts are. And if anybody wants to participate, just unmute your mic and just give your favorite Black history fact. And I'll start off by saying my favorite Black history fact is that Black Africans built the pyramids in Kemet. And for me, that was something that was imperative because it's really the only wonder of the world that's really still standing. And when you understand what those pyramids symbolize and what they mean, um, it's just an amazing achievement by Black and African peoples. Does anybody else have a fact that they want to offer?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
could hear you.
sir.
What's up, guys? How you going?
What's up, man?
My probably favorite Black history fact is Yasuke, the African samurai. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he was the first African samurai in the Sengoku period in Japan, and it's just interesting to know that he inspired so many people during those time periods.
Wow, that's fire. I actually didn't really know that, so that's
Yeah,
something I have
they're
to look up.
yeah.
He's got there's a good book out there on him. I didn't get to check it out yet, but it's on my list. It's on my wish list.
Yeah, was I think they were supposed to make a movie with I forgot the guy's name. Chad. What's the guy that Black Panther guy?
Chad Boseman.
Yeah,
Chadwick Boseman.
he was
Chad,
supposed to play him. Yeah.
let's
Rest in
see.
power.
Fresh and power. I shaded that. Favorite Black history fact. Man, I didn't even. To be honest, I didn't even think about this
Yeah.
beforehand. I would probably say the fact that we're literally the first ones to write anything.
Mm,
Like I feel like the fact that a lot of West Africa isn't necessarily looked at as well as like Kemet is most is oral tradition. Like everything is passed down orally. So the fact that we can claim the first people to actually write anything, that's actually if you know how like your thoughts create your actions, your thoughts create words, words create actions and everything, then to me just knowing that you are literally manifesting something from your mind, like just in that concept, that's incredible to me. Because if I'm putting myself in that position back then, like I don't know if I would have imagined like, oh, let me figure out how I can draw what exactly I'm trying to think or what I'm thinking or something like that. So I find that just pretty interesting if I'm going that far back.
or
Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is Jehudi. Um, One fact I might say is I think there's a good amount of tension on like Black Wall Street being in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so just realizing, remembering that there were quote unquote Black Wall Streets in a lot of major cities. Sweet Auburn, I think one in was it Durham. So I forget. I don't know if it's in Durham exactly, but North Carolina. But a bunch of cities had Black Wall Street. A bunch of cities were successful in creating community that was socially, economically powerful and sufficient, and that means.
And I believe I heard somewhere, I believe it was Dr. Carr talking about it, or it might have been in the book, The Color of Money, maybe, where it was talking about how like one of the reasons why uh the Black Wall Streets in North Carolina didn't have the same result as or the same outcome, like being bombed and everything, as the ones in Tulsa, was because they weren't as flashy per se. Like it was more so like if anybody doesn't know anything about North Carolina, one of the reasons why UNC is named Tar Heels is because the type of work they were into. It wasn't like anything where these weren't the people that was trying to be flashy in North Carolina or I guess be like a Detroit Red if you know like Malcolm X history or whatever. Like
mm.
so at least that's one thing that I picked up from either Dr. Carr or in that book. So like, if y'all haven't read that book, that's actually a great book to check out as well.
Jehudi, did you want to add to that? I saw you unmute your mic.
Oh no, I mean no, that sounds good. I mean, I think that kind of goes with I didn't know that detail, but that I mean that goes with what I think Tolu was saying earlier. Just the importance of as you create, you have to defend, and so one way of that is not just shouting everything out and whatnot. And I think many times we shout everything out one because like we feel like we have to prove a point to the world, and yeah, that's important to some extent, but it's like um we're also not necessarily controlling our communication methods, and so therefore it becomes a shout even though that may not be the intent. So
Word. And I was actually the fact that you brought up that fact, I was in a room last night, a clubhouse room with a brother named Dr. True, who's also a great teacher. But they were talking about how similar to Tulsa, like these things happened all across the United States. And it was really, he was mentioning like 13 different cities. I didn't get to write them all down, but some of them were like Harlem, East St. Louis, Omaha, Springfield, Missouri, Ridge Avenue, and South City, where they were had these flourishing black communities, and whites came in and really destroyed them. So I think that's a powerful piece of information right there.
I
Anybody
like.
else?
I was gonna say, adding on to Jahudi's point, I like what he just now said because I when I was younger, I used to actually want to be that person that's flashy or like showing off or whatever what we doing. But as I've grown, like with our conversation with King Kush earlier, like I'm realizing um how easy you could get shadow banned or like if you can take the president off of Twitter, and granted he incited a whole riot, but if you can, like what Jahudi was saying, you don't have control over what your like your means of communication out there like that. So you can never get to what Malcolm X was talking about with the Mau Mau if you are always telling everybody exactly what you're doing.
That's real. And we really need our own platforms that they can't control, that we control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. This is King Kush. That's the reason why we're focusing on building an app, a community app for our people, so we can migrate off Discord onto our own app. So because the people we need to talk to is our own people. We don't need to talk to the whole world.
Mm-mm.
Chinese people don't talk to the whole world, and they just manifest. So they're talking to themselves. All you see is the results. You don't see the talk. You don't see the crying. You don't see the protest. You don't see the marching. I'm tired of seeing marching. What's that done for us? So I feel like it's time for us to start doing what we're doing right now, and then making decisions, strategic decisions, in terms of how we begin to cultivate power. And this is what we need to do. Being on all these social media platforms that they control everything and they can restrict us and muzzle us, it's not acceptable. Look at what they've done to GMJ, Grandmaster J of the NFAC. They've muzzled him. They made up some Trump charge, and now he's not allowed to be on social media. So we are at war. We need to understand that. And so we need to act accordingly as the laws of the universe tells us to. When somebody wages war on you, you have to defend yourself. For too long, we've tried to please and be passive and to accommodate them, take their names, breastfeed their children, fight their wars, only to get lynched or spat at or tell us to get lost. So we can't play nice. They don't understand nice. They don't understand civility. I'm not saying we should go out there and start attacking people, but we should have the power to defend ourselves. When you have the power to defend yourself, people respect you. When they respect you, they leave you alone. And that's what needs to happen. So we just marching and asking the West to listen to our plight is not going to change anything. So yeah, I think what we're doing right now is like integral to that change.
Most definitely. I'm gonna let Zach give his little spiel of how he don't want to be 70.
Yeah, I tell my students that all the time. I keep it short just to keep us on schedule, but I tell my students all the time, and I'm like, I better not be 70 out there still talking about no justice, no peace. Like it's too much. Like again, the principle of Sankofa. When I'm looking back, it's too much evidence out there for me to sit there and think that marching. The only good thing about marching is to show the energy of the people and possibly galvanize some people that actually do want to do something. Like 2020 was the first time for some people to actually open their eyes to what's really actually going on. But we did the same thing in 2015. So like for someone like me or us that, we've already seen this a few times, someone that's like 17 or like 13, 15, whatever, they haven't seen that same thing. So like that's the only good thing about it, in my personal opinion, because as we see now, we got Apple throwing out like RBG bands for their Apple Watches. What exactly does that do for us? So like nothing tangible has come for us. So it's like you out there marching. I'm with y'all. Like it's time to actually show some more action versus just walking, you know?
Yeah. All right. Does anybody else have a Black History fact that they want to give? If
Sure.
not,
I'll
you go
give one
ahead.
if y'all can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, this is Garrett. So one of the touching on what you said about Egypt, I like that their mathematics, they didn't use fractions, so they could get with all their designs, they could get, you know, accuracy to, you know, to basically they were building the pyramids to align with the stars, and so they were actually able to align without any error. So if you look at modern observatories, you know, they're off by like, you know, fractions, but if you look at the Egyptian pyramids, they weren't off. And so for me, that means that, dang, if you go back, there's wisdom that, you know, our system now doesn't even tap into because of white supremacy. They don't even look back at, dang, maybe we could learn something from this culture. So to me, it's like, dang, even looking back, there was some wisdom there that we didn't even access because of where we're at as a society.
Exactly, bro. I love that you pointed that out. Because I'm kind of a nerd myself, and I got all but one of Sheikh Anta Diop's books.
Okay.
And like in barbarism or civilization, man, if I can find it real quick and possibly show you, he's got some formulas in here, and it's all about, like, he's got a lot of chemists working here. Oh, man, like for instance, I don't know if y'all can see that well, but from that one little spot, but he's like showing mathematical formulas that was being used back then, and I'm like, bro, like I love stuff like this.
Yeah, that's cool.
So one
What's
day,
that book called?
hopefully we can get to this one or any of Sheikh Anta Diop's books. Like this one was civilization or barbarism. The other ones, the other ones don't have the same content as this one, obviously, but his other works is The African Origin of Civilization, Pre-Colonial Black Africa, and Black Africa, the Economic and Cultural Basis for a Federated State. My bad. And I'm just missing one. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but it's one more of his books has been translated that I need to get.
Yeah, there's one. I just want to add to what you guys are saying about Asian Kemet and their knowledge. There's a documentary that came out a year ago in French, and it's just been translated into English, and it's called K2 19. And this is a French guy actually, and he's now done a 3-hour documentary, very comprehensive, and he breaks down how basically ancient Kemet gave us the civilization we have today, from the laws, mathematics, and everything you guys just said. And then he goes as far as saying, it's the same people who built the pyramid also built the pyramids in the Americas. So the Mayan pyramid there. So, and then he goes as far as to say, even the ones you see in Cambodia, all those buildings you see there, is the same people. And they said he's able to confirm this through the mathematics DNA. So there's a precision that they have, and it's consistent. And it's only ancient structures that have this. And then basically they can track and see that there's a pattern of consistency in terms of how we have basically been all over the world, even Australia, in terms of I think one or two of the pharaohs they've actually found writings in Australia saying that one of the pharaohs was there, and this is ancient. So what I'm trying to say now is that all the great ancient structures that you see is actually the same people, but obviously through migration and all that, they change. Because and then when you have other civilizations that come in after them, they don't have the same knowledge, they don't have the same skills. So you can see as things get more modern, the skill is lost, the knowledge is lost, and so ultimately, for whatever reason, whether it's climate change, tsunamis, or just or wars, the people left and moved on again and again. So all the buildings or mountains where you see carvings or big massive structures from in ancient times, these are the same people ultimately. So we are a very advanced people, but we've lost our memory, and it's just amazing that we have been deprived this knowledge for so long, you know. But you can understand why. Why would your enemy, your oppressor, tell you who you were? It doesn't make sense. So it's up to us to wake ourselves up and then become our true selves again.
Yeah,
I
and
love that last part.
modern science is still trying to get back to that knowledge that we had,
Right.
thousands of years ago.
Um,
And with Garrett speaking, man, I just wanted to bring this up. So me and Garrett played soccer together when we were younger, and we played for an organization named Imhotep International. I actually almost put on my jersey today and wore it here. It's crazy I can still fit it, but I almost put this
But that's
on.
good.
But yeah, if y'all didn't know,
yes,
Imhotep is regarded as he's regarded as the father of medicine. He was like the first person to write a book about medicine. So it's like even knowledge about health in the human body originates in ancient Kemet with our African people.
I think that last part that King Kush said about like why would your oppressor teach you anything, like that's been echoed many times, but it hits home every single time. And we recently were watching Kwame Ture's and Malefi Asante's debate on Afrocentricity versus Pan-Africanism, and in our heads they go hand in hand. However, one thing that stood out to us that Malefi Asante was saying was like the first thing to do to make a person a slave is to actually take their memory of self first, like just take that mind away. So again, like
100%.
Facts. So we trying to through this book club cultivate that African mind and that African centeredness. Does anybody else have a Black History fact they would like to share? If not, we'll continue on with the presentation. But one thing I do want to say before we continue forward with the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization, we will begin discussing this book particularly in 2 weeks, next Sunday the Sunday after next at 7 p.m. And the reading that we're assigning for this book is the preview, which starts at page 17 all the way up until the beginning of chapter 3, which is page 96. So it's about 70 pages, and we want to make this reading pretty feasible for everybody. So it's about 70 pages, 2 weeks. That's only 5 pages a day. That'll probably take like 10 or 15 minutes of time, depending on how you read. So we just want to make this easy for people to get into and not have it be overwhelming for y'all. So in 2 weeks, we'll be discussing the first, well, the introduction and the first 2 chapters of the book. All right.
also just if somebody out there doesn't necessarily um I don't know how if you want to supplement your readings with the audiobook. I don't know if y'all know, but somebody has done the work to actually read the book online on YouTube. Like you might not be able to find it on Audible or Scribd. However, there is a brother out there that's read a lot of Afro-centered work. So you could just look up The Destruction of Black Civilization audiobook, and like that first one's like an hour and 40 minutes. And you could just chop it up or change the speed on it, however it works best for you. And yeah, I just wanted to put that out there if anybody is still working with their reading stamina or not.
Yeah, and it's on YouTube as well. Just search it on YouTube and you should be able to find it. Um, all right, so just to continue with our PowerPoint, we want to introduce y'all to the concept of Pan-Africanism. And I'm actually going to let my brother Zach take this one over because he gives a great explanation of how Pan-Africanism is an objective. And I want him to provide context around that. Just what Pan-Africanism is and what does it mean for it to be an objective?
All right, so Pan-Africanism, right here, we said it is a worldwide movement that aims to encourage and strengthen bonds of solidarity between all indigenous and diaspora ethnic groups of African descent. Pan-Africanism is an objective for the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. It is the only solution to our problems worldwide. So, Pan-Africanism, it is not necessarily a methodology. It's not in my opinion, it's not an ideology. It's an objective. It's a goal. It's something that's continuous. Like it's never ending. Just like as far as like how our oppressors indoctrination, it's never ending. Like as we said, it's an intellectual warfare. So, um, for instance, it's the part right here where it says scientific socialism. Some people may not exactly know what that is. We're also going to dive more into that a little bit after this. But in its originality, even at I believe it was at the first meeting, Jalen actually looked this up in the papers. At the very first, I don't want to say conference. It might have been the first Congress. There was a difference. There's a conference that Henry Sylvester Williams started, but then there was the Congress that W.E.B. Du Bois started, knowing that a Congress would last longer than having conferences. So, so forgive me if I just have mixed up the words, but at it was either the conference or the Congress where they actually came together and decided on a socialistic goal for our people. And this was not solely in opposition of our oppressors, but in the unification and love for one another. It's for us to build with one another. And at the time period, our great thinkers already knew that we were fighting up against colonialism. Many people don't necessarily, at least if you're educated here, you don't always get a full grasp of what colonialism actually is, what it's a part of. Like it's a baby of capitalism. Like it's like a piece of capitalism in a sense. So therefore, inherently, if you are a Pan-Africanist, if you want the unification of all African people and their descendants and the diaspora, then you must be anti-capitalist. Not now, I know people get into black capitalism, but it doesn't matter what adjective you put in front of it, it's still capitalism. As far as what like Jehudi and King Kush have going on with the Susu Society or in the Discord or coming together, that is a form of socialism. Us coming together, bringing our talents together to make sure that we all thrive together. In my sense, I would, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would be saying that what y'all are doing is helping aid us to a goal of Pan-Africanism. So, um, therefore, if anybody in here has any questions as far as like capitalism, socialism, that's a major in-depth conversation that we can have, but just for time purposes and time sakes, I'd just like to say that our great thinkers, again, I like to pick up where our thinkers left off. I don't want to think as hard as I have to on certain things. So if for them to say that we must be anti-colonialism, which is inherently anti-capitalism, then that means what we must be is for socialism. And people may wonder, like, was this something that Marx created? Like, is this still something that is a Yorugu or a white person, or like, is it their concept? Is something that they created when you're talking about Marx? But no, like, when you start actually diving into more African-centered work, you see that our communities, no matter what tribe it was basically socialism. You come to the concept of Ubuntu, which is I am because we are, or as Jalen said, reminded me, I am as the people are, correct?
Um, a person is a person because of other people. I want to say that. I don't have an exactly. Give me a second, I'll give it to you direct.
Okay. So some of you guys may have already been Pan-Africanists and didn't even realize it. So just does anybody have any questions as far as what Pan-Africanism is, or did I do a decent job at that? Like, I am an educator, but I also do like to be critiqued because I know I can be better.
So the phrase is a person because of people, and it comes from, well, in its original inception, the phrase is Ubuntu, Ngumuntu, Ngabantu. Um, but that's where the phrase Ubuntu has its inceptions, and that's a Zulu proverb. A person is a person because of people. So you can't even conceptualize yourself being a person if you couldn't relate to other people. Um, and that's really what African traditional African life in society was centered around, how we relate to each other. We were a communal group of people. We weren't an individualistic, for profit, privatized group of people. That's something that came along with colonialization and Western society. So, in returning to our African selves, these are the type of principles that we have to use to unite. And that's part of the reason why Pan Africanism is so important. And we're really going to break down and make that clear for y'all why Pan African organization is necessary. So, as a lot of y'all might have not known, well, the Pan African flag is red, green, and black. And each of these colors on the flag represents something different and it's significant. So the red is for the color of for the blood of our ancestors. Black is for the noble and distinguished race that we belong to, as we can see on our skins. And then green is the color of the luxuriant vegetation of our motherland and her abundant natural wealth. So when you see the flag, red, green, and black, or you see these colors, think of these things because these things are significant to us.
Right. I would like to add in here, though, this was created by the UNIA ACL with Marcus Garvey, Honorable Marcus Garvey. And what inspired this actually was a very popular song back in the day, which is something that blows my mind. We already know how our oppressors are, and how inconsiderate or how ignorant they can be at times. But this was inspired because there was a popular song back in the day called "Every Race Has a Flag But the Coon," and y'all can look this up as well. And Marcus Garvey, it was like, you know what, they're right. But and if you know Marcus Garvey's history, his thinking was outside the box. Like, someone who was actually willing to have a conversation with leaders of the KKK, just so that we can get to our goals. Like, understanding a dialogue and conversation is the first step to moving towards action and whatnot. But he was actually thinking like, you know what, they're right. And he actually has, it's a quote out there. I might not say it verbatim currently, but he's like, they say we don't have a flag. They're right. We should have a flag to show our pride, to show our strength, so to our unity together. And then they came up with the RBG flag. So this flag is a sense of pride. It comes from that, and in opposition of oppressors thinking like, yo, y'all are nothing. So again, just showing that importance of the Honorable Marcus Garvey.
Yeah, so we're introducing these concepts of Pan-Africanism because they will show up with throughout the themes of different books that we read. So we at Unlocked are not necessarily a pan-African organization. We're more centered around Afrocentric literature, but these are themes that you will see commonly pop up through the book. So we want to just give you an understanding of, why we do what we do and why pan-Africanism is just significant in general. And it's something that um, that's really necessary, as we're going to make clear. Um, Before I get to that, I kind of want to break this down. So we'll go back to those slides. But this is going to break down why we need Pan-Africanism. And as a lot of um, in the 18th century, there was a triangular trade that revolved around the transatlantic slave trade. So slaves were taken from the west coast of Africa to the Americas, where they produced raw materials that were sent back to England and Europe. And then from there, they took those goods and sold them back to Africans and the colonies. So Europe's entire economy basically thrived off of this trade. And the people in Africa and the enslaved Africans that were taken to the West were the foundations of this power and this economy, which fueled the Industrial Revolution and really the life that we live today. And this is really a product of capitalism. Um, So just to keep building this, this is a map that shows you where many of the well, most of the slaves were taken from in Africa in the transatlantic slave trade. So as you can see right here, West Central Africa, about 5 million slaves were taken from this area. The Bight of Benin, about 2,000, I mean, 2 million slaves were taken from this area, and then other areas along the coast. Um, but from there, this map here shows how and where these slaves were taken to in the West. So, most people in this chat are from America. As far as the people I know are from the Americas. But one fact that's less commonly known is that only 4% of the slaves in the transatlantic slave trade were brought to America. That means largely there are many more people in the West that face the same type of oppression that we face that we don't connect with because we're not unified. So if we were able to unify, we would be able to harness a different level of power that we currently don't possess because we're so divided with our individual identities and especially geographically. um and then here is a short video. I'll actually let it play just a little bit. I might as well let the whole thing play. But this is a video of the transatlantic slave trade. And this is from a website called slavevoyages.org. And what you see here is all of these individual dots here are and the map will begin to populate. But these individual dots are slave voyages that are recorded. They have found primary documentation and I'm sure even secondary documentation on all of these voyages. And if you go to the website, you can click these individual dots and you can see the name of the ship. You can see how many people were on the ship, if they landed, if they even made it to the West. And this begins to give you an idea of how many people were really taken from the motherland of Africa and enslaved in the West. And it's really, really compelling, honestly.
Watch
Um,
how much actually it starts to pick up, man. That's this is the crazy part to me right here. And then
so
we always talk about how there's the most population of Africans outside of Africa is in Brazil, and just look at that. And if y'all aren't necessarily in circles to converse with family members, I mean family member, when I say that I'm talking about our cousins throughout the diaspora. If y'all haven't got the opportunity yet, I love finding out more and more about Brazil, to be honest, because in recent years, like the past 20 to 40 years, like many people are actually just now finding out that, yo, I have African blood in me. I'm Afro-Brazilian. Like a lot of people didn't even know that. So a lot of times in Brazil, they tried to make it seem as though racism wasn't as bad. Um, on looking out, looking in, but in reality, they really just didn't even know that they were black. That was like there's I might be able to share a link to a video that actually shows a woman, multiple people where they're saying like I didn't know I was black until I was 27.
wow.
That's incredible to me. So like looking at this and seeing how many of our family members are down there is incredible. Like it's definitely over 100 million now.
And they approximate anywhere from 12 to 15 million enslaved Africans that were brought to the West during the transatlantic slave trade. And a very good book to read that will teach you about this slave trade and how it really boosted the European economies from their cities to what they're able to produce, was Capital, or is Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams. And this book gives you a breakdown of like how much money these individual industries made, which industries flourished the most, which countries flourished, how they took control of the colonies and the capital coming from the colonies. And it's a very interesting book that gives you an understanding of why this type of unity is necessary. right. Try to get to this
As
next
mentioned
slide.
before, Walter Rodney's "How Europe Underdeveloped Africa" is also a really great book as well.
Okay. And then here is just a quick diagram that will show you how this trade system ended, but it still works in other ways against us today. So we still have this incentive to unify, because if we unify with our people all across the globe, we'll have the power to defeat these type of weapons against us. So here you see, the triangle trade we just explained, but also there's another sense of triangle trade where, you know, mass incarceration is one of the hugest weapons against us that's used today. All right. And then another big reason of why Pan-African unity is necessary, or for us to unify across the globe, is because not only did they colonize us in the Americas, they did colonize Africa as a continent. And the continent of Africa has just gotten its liberation from these colonial forces about 60 years ago, and they're honestly still working in these countries today. Um, so that's just another reason why this work is so necessary.
But as we know, like oppression is it's like energy, is gonna transfer. So as we see how you just talked about the physical aspect of colonialism, but now if you actually want to get a book on this as well, Kwame Nkrumah's neo-colonialism, where that is essentially what we're also dealing with now. So in neo-colonialism, if you don't necessarily know what that is, essentially there was like direct rule colonialism, where like you have your oppressor's forces directly right in front of you. So your police officer would be somebody that is French or British or something like that. Whereas neo-colonialism was where you would basically take some brothers or sisters and tell them they're different than the others, give them a token job, and tell them now you rule over these people while we tell you what to do. And essentially that is something that's being fought right now, and you can see that with the End SARS movement in Nigeria this past summer. That is a direct line from colonialism going right into neo-colonialism. It may look like Africans that are oppressing other Africans. However, the person that is controlling that, or the entity controlling that, isn't necessarily the Nigerian leaders themselves.
Yeah, the real people reaping the benefits are these European countries and even China. Um, but also, so we talked about how they colonize us physically, but through enslavement and through this colonization, they've also colonized our consciousness. And this is what, as a book club, we're fighting against. So by returning to these African ways of thinking, we are slowly undoing the colonization that they've done to our minds, so we can, begin to really think for ourselves in our own interests.
I just wanted to say in the chat, I did drop the YouTube link of the short Vox documentary of being black in Brazil, but I also wanted to mention, or brothers, he just now said, I can't remember where he got it from, but it was said that World War One started because of partition of Africa. World War
Mm.
Two also was because like Germany was in there like, yo, y'all done took all my colonized places. Like y'all done took it away from me. Now I don't know how can I thrive without that. So Hitler is like, nah, I ain't about to sit there and just be handicapped out here in Europe and have to keep paying y'all. Like, so I don't like. I know we all, if you again indoctrination, want to say that it all started with somebody killing somebody for World War One, but as we know, they kill people every day. So I don't know, like if I'm putting my logic together, it would make more sense of fighting over what really gives me my power versus you just killing one of my representatives.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about that, I recommend searching the Berlin Conference. And then also, there's a great video by Dr. Or Professor James Small called How Europe Conquered the World on YouTube. And maybe I can find that and drop that in the chat as well. But he does an amazing job of breaking down what really happened in the war on Africa that ended up in its partition. So I'll try to find that and drop that in here for y'all. So we are gonna
That's
go
a great
back.
video.
It's an amazing video.
Yeah.
Um, so we're gonna go back up here and we're gonna give you a little context on ASCAC. And ASCAC, as we mentioned, we have been colonizing consciousness. So ASCAC is a group of warrior scholars, so scholars who fought this intellectual battle for our history and our self-determination as African people. So ASCAC's main objective, it was formed in 1984, but its main objective is to provide the opportunity for African people to educate other African peoples about their culture. So some of the great leaders in this organization are Dr. John Harriet Clark, Dr. Asa Hillard, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, and Dr. Maluna Karanga, who's all actually started Kwanzaa. So these are some of just the great figures that are a part of ASCAC. And we're actually coming out with a lecture that will break down some of the most important figures of ASCAC and Pan-Africanism. So y'all should look out for that on YouTube.
So
Anything?
just to add context, there is, if y'all actually want to watch a documentary on them, it's an ASCAC documentary, 1987, where it actually shows them all taking one of those trips to Egypt, and it was amazing to watch. And I know I'm envious of my brother right here, Jalen, who's actually about to take a trip out there to Egypt this summer. And actually seeing them break down what all of these monuments there meant and how the environment was back then. And actually conversing, you can actually see in that documentary where there was differences between the elders and the at that time period contemporary scholars, such as like Naeem Akbar or Dr. Leonard Jeffries right there, because he was younger at that time. He was much younger. And I think there was like Asa Hilliard was a little bit younger back like it. And but you see Dr. Ben having differences with Malana Karanga on a certain thing. And we can see how a lot of our thinkers, we still have differences, but however, we're still working towards one goal. So yeah, if y'all get the chance, it's like a 2-3 hour documentary. I don't know if y'all have the time, but yeah.
Okay. And so just to, kind of that we just provide a lot of heavy information, especially with the transatlantic slave trade. But we want to provide another, icebreaker for y'all. So who is your favorite Black leader or author and why? And anybody can start or I can start. Um, for me personally, I'm gonna go ahead and say one of the first Black, and this is definitely unconventional, but one of the first people who got me thinking African and thinking differently is honestly Dr. Sebi. And he brought me to a different realm of information about African health and how to eat to live. And really, one second, I'm gonna add Amina in here. Okay, cool. But really got me thinking on and respecting African scholarship in a different way. So for me, Dr. Sebi is somebody who I hold close and dear, but I have many more.
Anybody? Well, I'll just say, if I'm sticking with lineage of just writers and poets, uh, it's gonna be, again, unconventional, but I'm gonna follow it up with someone else. Would have to be Tupac. Man, that is like I don't know about y'all, but that is a leader in my eyes. I actually just saw someone posted a video of him. With a private conversation where he actually had plans of getting the rappers back then to actually come together in the communities and do what Snoop Dogg kind of did with creating a sports team and whatnot, but he wanted to do more, where he wanted to keep on branching this out throughout the whole US and continue to have like the parents be more involved. Like they would be the security. He would go pull up to the gang members and be like, yo, who's the leader here, and have them be involved and everything. And a lot of his work, that like to be honest, he's the person in middle school that made me think like, oh dang, like I am like I do see nothing but negativity of me on TV. Like, and his music just spoke to me in a way, and that's what led me down to looking like, oh, he said his mom was a Panther. Oh, what is that? And I find out what the Black Panthers were, and then the Panthers, you find out, oh, who are they inspired? Oh, they were inspired by like Malcolm X, and oh, who is Malcolm X? And it just continued to take me back further in the lineage. So for me, I would say Tupac would have to be my favorite.
Yeah, I'll go next. So for me, it's hard for me to pick one. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick three. And I've got good reasons for that. First one is Dr. Amos Wilson.
Yeah.
Because he focuses on the psychology of our people and how we're behaving and how we need to change our mindset and how we think about ourselves and think about the world. For example, we don't really cultivate power. We don't see the value of power. We see people who are powerless as kind of a divine, like, because you're weak, God is going to save you.
Mm-hmm.
But God created the universe, and the laws of the universe tells us that you must defend yourself. This is the laws of the universe. So therefore, that's a contradiction in the way we think about how God thinks. I think Amos Wilson really breaks down the social psychology in a very, very detailed way. And it highlights our flaws today, which we're all still doing, and what we need to change in our mindset. The other two is Dr. Henry Clark and Dr. Ben. They are the bridge for me to knowing who I was before and who we were as an African people. So they've kind of exposed me to our ancient ways and our ancient traditions and our relationship with one another in terms of people. Obviously, we weren't always, we weren't always united. We fought each other and everything like that. However, we never marginalized or made one people not human or less than human. We never did anything to that level. So when we fought, we had people that we had basically brought into servitude, they would still have the opportunity to rise up the ranks and be part of the community and have some kind of influence in society. So there was a way we did things that was very different, and they exposed that to me. The other thing they exposed, especially Dr. Ben, was the importance of the African woman and how they're very essential to the way we are as a people. They are the birth of our civilization. So ultimately, the mind of the woman is so important into how she nurtures the people. And ultimately, they are the true leaders and pioneers, the birth of civilization. So we need to harness them to be the best that they can be so they can ultimately create gods, because ultimately we are gods. So I think they have made me realize the importance of my wife, my children, my daughters. I've got 2 girls, and how I need to nurture their mind so they know who they are. I think we live in a society now where, people just have children with anybody. They don't vet the person to say, you are worthy to be multiplied. You are worthy to be made again. So the woman does not even know who she is. She does not know that she is a portal to bring that man back into existence again through his children. So we need to start to educate ourselves, our women, our men, to honor our women, to put them on a pedestal, because this is what they did in Kush. This is what they did in Kemet, because all kings or pharaohs came from a woman, a melanated woman. This was the mantra then. So it brings balance back to me as a man, as in terms of the way I see myself, in terms of the way I see women. So I honor women, because in honoring women, I honor myself, because I come from a woman. Ultimately, they made me, I made them, we are one. So I think these three people, these three scholars, these master teachers, these ancestors have been the gateway for me to reconnect with myself, as well as others. But those three are the pioneers for me, big influences.
I'll say, brother.
I say, yeah, those some major people right there.
Yeah. And there's that quote, you can judge the status of a nation by the status and the liberation of their women. That's powerful. I see you. Go
Facts.
ahead. Go ahead, Marty.
All right, yeah. I just, I got 7. Now I'm just playing. I only got 1. But like, just to keep things. We've said a lot of names. I feel like people have to research, but I think it's important to realize that like we do have people currently who aren't, who are currently. Well, technically he isn't alive anymore, but Nipsey Hussle. Because I think it's really important for us to realize that like there are people who are in this entertainment space. I know we like talk down on it a lot, but like for me, I wasn't a huge Nipsey Hussle music fan, but just the type of person that he was. And like just to Zach's point about what Tupac was preaching about the community and like self-sufficiency and just, I feel like Nipsey really introduced to me a philosophy of abundance that I really feel like I hadn't really appreciated until he's like, yeah, man, I charge $1,000, like, to the point of capitalism, but he's like, I charge $1,000 for my mixtape. And if you're not gonna buy it, like whatever. But then it's like it sells out in like a day. So it's like, dang, like how marginal are we keeping ourselves? Like how much power are we not tapping into just because we're believing in the European ideologies of us being lesser than them? So it's like for me to see somebody, in my lifetime that I kind of grew up with, like I watch his interviews and it's like, dang man, like I ain't spending these tracks at all, but like anytime that I can get a chance to hear you like speak about like, how he treats Lauren, how he treats like his kids, how he treats his community. And it's like, and I think another thing is like he wasn't the background of his, like Nipsey's background wasn't what you pictured when you thought of like Martin Luther King or other like black leaders. It's like, bro, it's a Crip. So it's like, I love people who are in situations that like completely contradict what European people have said about us. Like, oh, gangbangers are like certain types of people. And it's like, no, bro, like the whole idea of Crips and Bloods started as a way to kind of empower. And, it kind of got twisted and, led astray. But it's like, bro, like Nipsey literally was like, for me, the closest thing that, because I myself want to use entertainment as a platform to really like shed light on a lot of the same issues, but it's like he made it cool to shed light and also still be like an artist, like still be somebody who promotes this through his art. And there's other people like Kendrick, but it's like it was different with Nipsey. It's like I could see like a king. It's like bro was like real deal, carried himself like that. And it's like, bro, like you don't have to be Martin Luther King. You don't have to be like, a Southern Christian Leadership Conference type of black in order to really resonate with a lot of the messaging and like a lot of what he had to do. So like for, in the consideration of time, like I will wrap it up. But like, man, Nipsey Hussle is like one of my favorite black leaders because like Tolu said, the list is like endless about all the, people that have inspired me just throughout my life.
Oh, Shay, I can co-sign that as well. I like your point of just how we are possibly shorting ourselves, as far as because when Haven and I went up to DC, we went to this black-owned restaurant. There was like soul food, it's everything that my grandma could have made at home. I could have got for free, but the tab was like $50. So I was like, whoa, like I'm happy y'all know y'all worth, but I should have went to grandma for this. Like there's like so many different things out there where we may be really shorting ourselves on what we have already. And we just sitting there like, all right, here, you can get a 2 for 10. And it's like, no, bro, like that was work right there. You have talent. Like we don't get this anywhere else. Like,
and it's not even just financially. It was like mentally, spiritually, physically, like what Jalen said, like when you start to realize like the food that you're putting into your body, like a lot of the stuff that our grandmothers cooked was out of a different place than where we are now in 2021. So it's like even if like and I don't say that to speak down on like, you know, where we come from, but it's like we are on their shoulders. Like we are standing on our, like we are supposed to take what our ancestors have done and push it forward so that our children can push it forward once we have it and, you know, continue that process. So yeah, man.
Well, honey, I'm with you on that. Anybody else have a favorite Black leader, author?
So I'll go ahead.
Okay.
My favorite Black leader is definitely Malcolm X. Just his restoration process, his discipline, and his intelligence. You know, he was, you know, you couldn't, if you didn't know what you were talking about, you weren't going to be able to stand in a room with him and argue with him. He pretty much, you know, he had his talking points. He knew what he was going to say, and he knew it was right. And then as he progressed, he slowly became more and more Pan-Africanist. Like you could watch his progression over time, and I like to look back and see that change. And then I'll say my favorite author right now. I recently read a book by Mwalimu Baruti. And it basically, say it again.
That's my dog, boy.
Yeah, he's real good, and it helped me to like understand a lot of internal conflicts I had with, you know, the culture and then the system, the way the system works is kind of like I can see where it's contradictory to me at my core, and that book kind of showed me like why and how things kind of were in Africa, how Africans think a little bit differently, and that book kind of opened my eyes in a big way. So,
man, I'm glad you brought him up, Garrett. I'm gonna have to tap you in because we was just in a Zoom conference with Baruti yesterday. He was giving a lecture on building African-centered rites of passage.
Okay.
And yeah, we know some people in Atlanta that are tapped in. And Jehudi knows as well, man. So we're trying to get tapped into those circles with them. So I'll definitely keep you up.
Okay, bet.
Yeah, man.
Which book did you read, by the way? Which one did you say you read?
So I started with so I have a Asafo now. That's my next one, but I read Iwa. Iwa was good.
Yeah, they always say between those two, those are like the ones to start off with. So I'm happy you mentioned him, bro.
Most def. Anybody else?
Hi.
Hello.
If we're going to talk about African leaders, it would be a crime not to mention Thomas Sankara. Have you guys heard of him? You know, Thomas Sankara. Yeah. He was a young officer who got into presidency in the Upper Volta, but he renamed it to Burkina Faso, meaning the upright man. Of course, he stood for women's rights, and in 4 years, he changed his country and built schools and hospitals for his people, everything the colonialists had not done. But for me, the most important thing he did was just be young and exemplify good leadership and integrity and everything. Because even today, his legacy still lives on and he's inspiring people. You know, Africa is the youngest continent in the world, and we have the largest young and most youthful population. So today, Sankara is stronger than ever because he's inspiring them to live up to their potential and to take leadership positions. And it's just amazing that his legacy still lives on. I love Sankara, and everyone must love Sankara.
Definitely.
Yeah, amazing guy.
Yeah, if y'all don't know who he is, man, what people here in the US say is impossible, he made possible. So
Hey, also, do some of these names pretty difficult to spell? So everybody, could y'all drop some of these names in the chat so I can, look up the literature?
Yeah, Zach, hold the book up because it's on the book pretty well too.
yeah,
Thomas
so
Sankara.
Thomas Sankara, right here. If you'd like to type it while I'm showing, Mwalimu. I think I'm actually saying it wrong myself.
Yeah, I just say Baba Baruti, man.
Baba Baruti. Who else did we say? We had John Henry. I got I got his work over there too, but I keep on getting up to get these books.
And I'm gonna go back to the slide so you can see Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen. These are definitely some people that used to research, especially Dr. John Henry Clark.
100%.
Greetings, everyone. This is super informational. By the way, I'm Akata, and thank you for inviting me here.
Yes.
I would love
Thanks
to
for pulling
answer. No, for sure. So much love. Give thanks. I wanted to answer the question, and even though my answer is pretty obvious, and you've mentioned this author, Dr. John Henrik Clark, I literally love to stress him as my first favorite author on the topic of Africa solely and nationhood. He has this one quote that really sticks to me, even though he's I would say I love his lectures yet. I guess I can't say I have a favorite Black author just yet, but his lectures feel like I'm reading wealths of books. But one of his quotes is that really sits with me from his lecture is the education of the struggle is the rehearsal for nationhood. And
Yeah.
all
I love that one. Oh,
that quote just like it
Yeah.
really it's like this renewable like resource of energy that just gets pushed into me whenever like it feels like us as Black people are stuck. And I really realized that in order to succeed, we have to find the solutions to these instead of just see them as solely anchoring us down to the bottom. Because if we rise from this, no one can stop us. Like nothing can stop us. So it's almost like humbling myself to every struggle that happens and objectifying it and not seeing it as a personal mishap. Like, you know, even though it has been, I almost feel as if my generation, I can't afford to do that. We can't afford to do that. We actually have the literature. We actually can talk to one another within 3 seconds across the globe. So it's such like, as soon as I feel such intensity, I start to also feel very connected to my people. And I'm actually tapping into that concept. And like, I know it seems like a taboo word, but like telepathy, I think as Black people, we really got that. We really got telepathy. We could say one word and you'll understand the 30 out of the 30 different ways it could mean, you'll know what I mean by that. But before, I don't want to digress with that, but one of the brothers mentioned Malcolm X, and one thing I learned about John Henrik Clark recently is that he used to educate, like he would give Malcolm X a folder, apparently it was like a yellow folder of facts, and this helped elevate this brother to present factually, and that's what made him great. So he is an accumulation of the greats as well. So one thing about us African people that can never be taken away from us is we are connected. Like there's no killing a martyr, even though it seems like it does happen, right? You can't kill it off completely because we all are connected. We all are connected, and my advancement is your advancement, is advancement all together. And we have to continue to remember that even through the travesties of war, which we're in. So thank you.
I say. And a lesser known fact about Dr. Henrik Clark and Malcolm X, they worked together to form a Pan-African organization called the OAAU, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which was based off the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. So these brothers were working together, and that's what Malcolm X was forming in the late years of his career before he was assassinated. So that's pivotal information.
I just want to tap in on when you were talking about the struggle is the highest form of education. Like I for me personally, people dive into metaphysics a lot, and I think when you start realizing as above as below, like sometimes when you feel as though you're farthest away from your answer, you're really right there next to it. Like that, to me, that is exactly what he may not even be saying, talking about metaphysics or whatever, but that is exactly what that is. Like we've been struggling for how long?
Right.
And like, so like, if you're not actually taking in, and I love this conversation with you guys. This is refreshing to be with people that admire and love these great thinkers as much as we do. 'Cause usually we're trying to convince people about these people. So like
Right.
for me, it's amazing that he could piece that together back then for an entire people and notice like, yo, we have all our lessons right here already. Like, just do the opposite. Like, this doesn't work. So I mean, that's a lesson right there in itself. So yeah, I love that you added that in. I was actually just watching his lecture yesterday on exactly what you're talking about. I added it in the chat just in case if anybody wanted to check it out.
Yes,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's divine. So me and Alma were in the chat room yesterday with Dr. Phil True, and that's how I actually met Alma, and I heard her speaking about Pan-African unity, and I was like, wow, I gotta bring the sister in. So I'm very glad you came and connected with us today, Alma.
Yes, thank Jalen. Like seriously, thank you. Literally, that conversation yesterday it was like a journey.
Most definitely.
An ebb and flow, and we continue to do so, and we're strong enough to go through these parts of our conversations. I know a lot of people say like this culture doesn't have to do this, and one thing as Black culture do is we hold each other accountable, and as painful as it is, that's one thing other nationalities kind of don't have. I think we should hone in on it, yeah, and find appropriate ways to really be able to do such things. Like one example, I was telling somebody, one a friend of mine, I was telling her how sometimes when we're having a conversation about, like, okay, I'll go straight to the point. One of the things that I think we should start doing, right, is minding our business. And that sounds super simple, like, why, duh. But like, is to the point is, if we want to really build with each other, let's start playing games of like analysis. Like, okay, if Ghana and Kenya were to trade right now, what could they trade that they each produce? Like, instead of thinking of, oh, this white man's gonna stop us, they're gonna fight us, blah, blah, blah. My point in that discussion is like, oh, wow, you wanna be part of the safety and security team? You could take that conversation there. We're not having that conversation here. This conversation here is about how we're going to make it happen. And if we have to have another division that talks about that, that's awesome. But what we're not going to do is let the plights of one part of the blueprint like annihilate another part, because it messes up with the integrity, or like, what do you call it? Like the fire of it. It's like if a kid was super fired up about saving the world, and the adult comes and says, well, this and this person's going to stop you. But no, it's the adult's job to make sure that person doesn't come to stop the kid. You don't have to tell the kid that. Let the kid be that, marinate in that joy. Let them really get to that depth of that topic while others protect them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I went everywhere with that conversation, but I think that's ways we can elevate our conversation sometimes. Not you guys, like I'm just talking about how like, anyway, I feel like I'm going all over the place. I'll be quiet.
No.
I think what you're saying is perfect. It makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically knowing our roles as a people and understanding that we need to be like the guide for the younger generation. So if we have people who are young who have a passion, then we should feed that passion. We should basically protect it so that it can grow. We feed it what it needs to grow and become what it needs to be to manifest. And I think that's one of the things that we need to start doing is like this generation, our ancestors have given us everything we need in terms of the books, in terms of dying for us, giving us everything we need now to start manifesting real meaningful things. There's nothing stopping us right now. So the only thing that's stopping us right now is distractions, focusing on things that are not meaningful, that don't edify us, don't allow us to grow. So we start to focus on building infrastructures, institutions, then basically we are building things that will protect the youth, the new generation. When they want to manifest things, those institutions are there to protect them. Just like you just said in your example, if a child wants to do something, the mother, the father, the uncles, aunties. Their job is to protect that child to manifest its dreams. So this is the mandate I think we have now. Is like they've given us the blueprint, the message. Now is about results, real results in institutions, and these are the things we need to start building for to counter the Eurocentric institution and Asian institutions. We should have ours. So and it's not a case we want to go against anybody else, but this is just the fundamental foundations that every civilization, every people must have for its offspring. Otherwise, we're fair game.
I say, brother. And what you said about that game, that's a fire at it. That's a great idea. Maybe we could develop that or something. I would love to play a game like that.
Seriously, because we already kind of do that. Like, I've seen like boys playing video games. I'm like, yo, imagine you took that strategy into like,
Right? Towards
thinking,
Black liberation, African liberation. Yeah.
and it's self-liberation too. Like, even watching movies, like one thing I've been seeing is the cognitive dissonance in our folks when it comes to watching movies and being like, oh, he should have known he was this, or he should have, why they went there, why would you do that? Oh, like, we become real geniuses when we're watching movies, but then when it comes to real life, we forgot that these movies are like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, they're not lying to you, but they're training you to only think this way when you're watching the movie, and not to realize you have the same capabilities in real life to make certain decisions. And when we see that, like, I don't know, for me, when I do that, it really instantly takes the pain from my situation, because I start to see like, oh, wait. What if there's something to this? Maybe I'm hurting now, but I'm getting at something, and I need to get through this to get at that. And that solution can live on for ages. But if I get stuck in, why is this happening to me? I'm losing like the fact that I'm close to a gem. Like recently, I'm a wellness person. I'm very much into yoga, but I'm one of the things about my life that is fascinating, that I really do believe is not just my life, but my ancestors went through these things too, is that once I start learning about a topic and I go to these white institutions, I almost am like, dang, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, because I see it from the inside. And that was the hard thing about college. Like, I went to school for communication arts and I minored in psychology and dance and movement studies, but I wanted to do neuroscience. But I was in spaces where they were like, they wanted me to fail. Like, it turned them on to fail me. Like, I've had a teacher say stuff like, oh, I failed chemistry 3 times. It's okay if you fail. And I'm like, ma'am, no, I don't. No, we're not doing this. I don't want to do that. Like, I tutored people when I failed and they passed. So I knew that there was something off with the system. And the last straw was when I was in a communications class, and they were teaching about, like, it was a fusion of communications and neuroscience. And they showed how in certain, like, how companies invested in labs that studied people's ability to like they studied people and their relations to commercials, to the point that they would put probes on people's heads to watch a commercial to see which part of their brain lights up. And what they started to do is create like they would orchestrate a video in which the brain would light up in a way that would get them to see what they saw a certain way. And I just realized, wow, our desires are super manufactured to the point that we don't even realize to the extent these companies go to really take advantage of the human psyche. Like, and our people would say stuff like, oh, well, Coca-Cola didn't make me buy it. I'm like, are you sure? Like, you don't know
what they got in that drink though.
What they got in that drink, but also like how they know they're using the anatomy of your brain to take advantage of you. You don't even realize it. Like, and it goes as far as to how they're using data to do it. So like, when I realized that, I was like, yo, I can't work for these companies. But I graduated with all this knowledge and I'm like, wow, I got debt, but I don't want to work for these places. But at the end of the day, I'm using this knowledge to further my as much as that sucked and I was mad at that, like my parents were like, why did we take you to school if you was gonna not get a job here? I realized that my ancestors put me down that path to see this, to recognize this, and to know when I going to school doesn't make me better than a person at all, nowhere near. Not that I ever thought it, but it, through the pain of going to this school, I really had to emphasize this. But I move forward to say that this has helped me like objectively see certain problems when we go through things. And I just really invite us all to start doing that too. I know we already do it, but one of the brothers, I don't know your name, but you mentioned how you're usually in a room where you have to persuade people. And I feel you on that. And so creating spaces like this is so helpful for the psyche, because we're on education mode right now and we're not always on please believe me, I'm not lying. Like it's not even about believing me, it's about literally believing yourself. Like I'm not even trying to get you to think like me. Like please argue with me, please.
And really grounding ourselves in truth as well. Like we're not talking about opinions or what we believe or how we feel. Like we're here by reading these books. We're grounding ourselves in truth and history, and using that to take us into the future.
Yeah, what you just now said was the reason why, again, I said I don't have Netflix anymore. Like I don't play video. I haven't played video games in so long. All I do is read, watch lectures in the car. It's audiobooks or a lecture. I'm right there with you. What's up, Kenny? This is also one of our co-founders right here of Unlocked, by the way.
What's going on, man? I saw Jehudi had his mic off, and I also saw Magal. So if any of y'all want to answer the question or just add to the conversation, I want to open it up to y'all.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jalen, let me know when y'all talking about this game. I already talked to Zach a little bit about how I'm interested in working on some like gamifying experiences and whatnot. So definitely interested in that. In terms of the author, I would say Octavia Butler. She's real dope. I think it's it's funny. I grew up like reading like Mwalamu Baruti and whatnot, and so some of those authors can get real heavy, and they got all the advanced SAT words and whatnot. And that's good, but it's also just in terms of making that switch of like entertainment, like you said, being able to win yourself off of Netflix or something like that. Like Octavia Butler, and I think authors like her are cool. She's a black, what would she describe herself as? Like black sci-fi. But it's like futurism mixed with sci-fi mixed with like she'll throw in African spirituality in there. So it's just a cool mix, and it's just good stories, interesting stories, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Like even with this game, even in media and whatnot, is seeing more stories of the future in stories that we want to see. Because you go to Netflix, man, they don't have any good images of the future. Like the world is crumbling according to Netflix and whoever's making those movies, and like I don't plan on living in that world, so I want to see the one I plan to live in.
We're not gonna live in that world.
Yeah, Black Mirror is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
And then I want to open the floor to Magal as well. I know he's been waiting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's been a lot of listening on this end. I've been very appreciating the space. Initially, I was going to comment on, again, pardon my pronunciation, Sheikh Ansa Diop. I know he was mentioned earlier, but as one of my favorite authors, only because kind of in the same realm as you were speaking about when you were reading about Dr. Sebi, but just the concept of respecting like African intellect, for lack of better wording. You know, my parents are Ethiopian, and I've always kind of felt, I was always connected in that culture. But for Dr. Diop, it was like he was a physicist, a radiologist, a linguist, and he kind of applied almost like a research methodology to proving these things. Like we say, it's the truth. It's not a matter of please believe me, it's the facts, but people don't like to use context and critical thinking. So it's hard for people like that to then deny scientific breakdowns of language or carbon dating, or like you were saying, one of the guys in here was mentioning the pyramids and all the different areas, both in like Australia and like the Southeast Asian Peninsula. It's hard to deny the geometry of those things and where that information was and how it just disappeared and how it could disseminate across oceans before technology. But then the Europeans and their cohorts somehow can't find that information. So it had to be aliens or something like that.
Right. That's what they try to make it seem.
For sure. And then while I was waiting, which is why I'm happy, I always like to listen. Tolu, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, had mentioned earlier when he was talking about in creating institutions and spaces for the next generation. That's a lot of why I'm furthering my own education and programs I'm looking into doing. I'm not gonna lie, like as a vulnerable moment, a lot of it kind of like I want to go into public administration, public service, but more so like organization, creation, community kind of involvement type deal. But you need to know budgeting, you need to know finance, you need to know discipline. Like there are all these skills, and I found myself often struggling a lot of times, like kind of with what the young woman was speaking about earlier. Like I need to be in these spaces to gain these skills to be looked at in a particular way. But then is it like, am I submitting to them, to me then saying like they're the ones that have to teach it to me? And it's like, I don't know. It's not like a sellout thing, but sometimes I find myself kind of in a weird disposition about my motivations, you know? And when most recently someone was talking about Octavia Butler, like a lot of that sci-fi technology, spirituality, I was recently reading a book by a Princeton professor. Her name is Ruha Benjamin. And she was talking about how technology and algorithms and predictive spaces and all these things are now widening the gap and murkying up who's responsible for what. It's hard enough to deep root these systems in place and just say the U.S. government when we know who wrote them. Like we have a track record of when they wrote them, who they were, what they were like. But these tech companies and these app designers and these guys who technology is just kind of unregulated, people like to think like, oh, robots aren't racist. But it's like, well, who's programming them? Where are their databases coming from? What are those robots learning from? And it's like, we're kind of, not we, but it's getting obscured who's responsible for the problems. And it's hard enough to convince others who might not be in the know about, you know, how things can be a system of oppression and how inherently they just exist in a way that doesn't benefit us. But if you add technology on that and the lack of critical thinking that is just across the country, it's going to be even harder when you try and tell someone, oh, it said it was random number generated. That random number couldn't have done something that was racist. And you're like, no, it could have. So I don't know. I kind of wordsmith. It kind of said a bunch of stuff. So I apologize. But I don't know. I was just thinking about it.
Well said.
Yeah, no, that was all great, man. Thank you for that. So anybody else want to provide context to this question? Who is your favorite Black leader or author and why? And we actually have about 15 more minutes in here. So I think we'll just move on to our last slide. And one, I just want to thank everybody for being here with us and providing context and building this conversation with us. Once again, if y'all just hopped in, we will be reading The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. We're going to be meeting in 2 weeks on not this upcoming Sunday, but the Sunday after to discuss up to chapter 3. So it goes up to page 96. It's about 70 pages of reading, and it breaks down to only 5 pages a day. So it's something that's very feasible for us. And the importance of this book when it comes to history cannot be overstated. But just to end this off, I just want to extend this conversation to introduce the AAPRP. And this is something my brother Zach actually brought me into, and we are in a work study circle in Atlanta as a part of this organization. So it's not directly attached to our book club here. Like I said, we're mostly focused on African-centered literature, but this is an organization that has been founded for Pan-African unity. So this is something me and Zach do outside of the book club. But if you're interested in organizing politically, we recommend you hitting us up and we can plug you into these circles. So I'm gonna let Zach actually give a rundown of what AAPRP is and what their aim is.
All right, so I'm also just side note. I'm also in ASCAC as well. They're about to meet up right now in a second. So as soon as we hop off of this one, I'm going to the ASCAC meeting as well. Like I'm like dedicated. We are dedicated people on this Warrior Scholarship right here. So, but as far as AAPRP, it is the All African People's Revolutionary Party that aims for the total liberation and unification of Africa under an all African socialist government, an objective which, when achieved, will bring about the fulfillment of the aspirations of Africans and people of African descent everywhere. Now, this was founded by Kwame Nkrumah and Ahmed Sekou Touré. If you don't know who they are, Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Guinea. My bad.
Ghana.
I'm getting them mixed up. Ghana, my bad. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Ghana. Ahmed Sekou Touré was Guinea. Apologies on that. Let me slow down so I'm not about to have hiccups on this. Amilcar Cabral, if you don't know who he is, this is also another revolutionary leader that I actually need to get some of his books. Like he's someone else that you'd have to get the translations to actually watch his lectures per se, if you want to. Not lectures, but his talks. But this is somebody who was actually in the fields all the time, like kind of like a Walter Rodney in a sense, where they were with the people. And Kwame Ture, one of the people I call my revolutionary fathers, who was formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. And the reason why I personally am a proponent for AAPRP is because I like to literally follow the lineage. Like, that's how I got into ASCAC as well. And this is what I like to tell anybody, like always follow the lineage. Like you don't have to follow these internet scholars that come up with YouTube facts. Like you can literally follow the lineage of these people. As the sister said before, John Henry Clark was right there with Malcolm X, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. But he was also right there with Kwame Nkrumah. He was Kwame Nkrumah's Jegna. He was somebody who was guiding him and whatnot. So we see AAPRPs more so for the political aspect, whereas ASCAC is more so for our historical, cultural aspect. Whereas here in Unlocked, we're just trying to be a conduit to both. Right? We're trying to open your minds to whatever field you feel as though you can go into. Now, as we see with all of these people, one thing that you'll notice is they all organized. They all had an organization with them. It's not like Malcolm X just popped up out of nowhere and was like, hey, I'm Malcolm X, like follow me. Or it wasn't like Kwame Ture popped up out of nowhere and he had SNCC. He was right there with Martin Luther King Jr. As the brother said before, MLK was with SL's the Southern Leadership Christian Conference. I might have said that.
SCLC.
Yeah, okay. So and every single one of these people that we mentioned understood the importance of organizing. Now, if you don't understand the importance of that yet, as like we have Tolu, King Kush, who has mentioned it as well. We have Jehudi with his Susu Society. We're all trying to organize together to come to one at some point. AAPRP is an organization that was that noticed that way ahead of time, where they were like, look, we see that we all have these different goals. If you read Kwame Ture's Black Power, he even says it at the end. When he first coined the term Black Power, he didn't anticipate the fact that other people had different thoughts of what Black Power would be. So, and with his evolution of thinking, it led him to Pan-Africanism, as what we're talking about now, which is the entire goal of us at the end of the day. So, if you don't understand the importance of that, you can easily look at the Proud Boys. You can easily look at the KKK. You can easily look at our government. You can easily look at our oppressors that do organize and come together and they make things happen, whether or not it's good
The
or bad.
banks. The
Now,
banks.
thanks for the cosign, but like you don't necessarily. They may be. Kwame Ture said one way to look at one group to look at as far as conscious development. He said, look at the white right. The white right wings, they will come together and form an organization off of hatred, off of disliking something. Whereas for us, if I'm looking at historically and from my readings, from looking at lectures and everybody, we have to organize with love for ourselves. Like, and that's the thing that's been missing since we didn't know ourselves and it was impossible to love ourselves. And as Malcolm X says, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, how can you love the tree without loving its roots? So in that in the essence of all of these leaders, it is a good thing to come together and organize with loving yourselves. Like, again, like the sister said earlier, I don't need to hear your negativity. You know, I don't necessarily need to hear you say this doesn't work or this, that, and that. Let's come together and focus on us with our love. And when I say love, I ain't talking about just being moist with one another. I'm actually just talking about, like, love is powerful. And depending on your beliefs, you know, it doesn't, to me, in every single religion, I'm not a religious person, but in every single religion, love is a component that is necessary. Now, and it's not necessarily as just like how we misinterpret feminine energy. It is powerful. So it's not necessarily love and saying I need to come hug you. That feminine energy isn't like, no, I just need to come nurture you. No, that is powerful. And we need to tap into that more so instead of just being like, oh, the white folks, this, white folks, that. So that's why I am a proponent of AAPRP. I'm a proponent of ASCAC. I'm a proponent of anything that you guys are also doing. But also in context, I'm gonna also say this though. I'm an Afrocentric person, and I feel as though the political works don't tap into our spiritualness, which is why the NOI works, which is why the Black Panthers movement worked. It tapped into an ethos of people that were saying one thing, but then the leadership, it seemed as though they didn't want to connect, which is where, again, love for one another, understanding that being a talented 10th, I know I'm in that field because I graduated from UGA. But if you're out in UGA or if you're out in any collegiate area, you can kind of feel where people don't necessarily want to communicate with the people that are actually residents in that area. Like, I definitely heard a lot of people that, you know, we say things, we want to make things happen, but we don't actually tap into the people that can really make those things happen. And the people that actually, I don't like to say locals anymore, but like the residents in that area that you actually need to tap into. You know, that brother that didn't get the chance to go to college, they can still join AAPRP and still get that political development, political educational development. Apologies on that. Or they can still join an ASCAC. We can still tap in with Tolu. We can still tap in with Jehudi. We can still tap into these other organizations that we're trying to build here together. And that's just, I don't know if I said too much, but I was just trying to, for time's sake, I was just trying to get all that out there. But yeah, I guess that would be where I end that. All African People's Revolutionary Party.
Word. Yeah, so if y'all are interested in that, definitely tap in with us. You can send us a message. What I will do is I'll drop my Instagram handle here. That's a great way for you to connect with me, but I'll also put our book club's Instagram page on here as well. And if y'all want to connect with each other, feel free to drop y'all contacts information in here. We're all here for a reason because we're similar, like-minded people, and we're all on the same wavelength, and we all want to, see the same things going forward. So I definitely recommend to keep up with each other, and we're gonna try to find a way in which we can stay connected outside of these meetings every other week, and we can build with each other. Um, and one great place is Tolu's Discord. So I think he dropped the link in here for that.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I know we're about to end. I just want to end by saying this was fantastic. Everyone's in here is the kind of people we're trying to work with. I'm really passionate about what I'm trying to do, what you're trying to do, and my goal is to basically manifest everybody's goals by coming together and working together to manifest things. I'm really emphasizing manifestation because you see the pyramid. The pyramid is still there because of the currency that they focused on was their inner self, their inner worth, their inner spirituality. And the reason why that still stands today is because the value that they hold dear the most was the things within themselves, their character, their principles, their people. So we now need to start doing the same thing as our ancestors did. We have all the vision, we have all the ideas, we have the knowledge. Now it's time to build, 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 build. The same way the Chinese have built for China, we need to start building for ourselves. And it will be even much, much greater because we're going to go through an Afrocentric concept. Because the way we think, the way we do things is different. We do things with nature. We do things with alignment with the universe. We're not doing it for anybody else or for monetary reasons. So I'm really imploring everyone to join Discord. This is your forum, is a hub for everybody to come together. I'm literally trying to bring everybody in. I'm not, as long as you're like-minded, you're not there to judge and hate people, but you're there to enable and empower people. This is where our mindset is. We're building a website. That website should be up in the next month. After that, we're focusing on an educational app. And after the educational app, we're building a community app where we're going to migrate from Discord, because Discord is not an African, or as you say in quotes, Black application. So I want to manifest these things so we can start to build from there. It's really important that we listen to what each other's visions are, and then we enable each other to help each other do those things. This is how we give back to our future selves. This is how we grow. This is how we thrive, rather than trying to survive as we're doing, especially in Africa. Everybody's just literally 90% are literally surviving day by day. They don't know half the things we know because they're just trying to focus on the next food. You know, I was in Nigeria last year, February. I'm seeing kids as young as 8, 7 selling on the road where cars are passing them by on both sides of the road. They're selling things, they're not in school, they're literally just trying to survive. So we need to do so much. But the thing is, we can do those things just by us coming together. And that $1 to $5 is all we need to get all these things done. And that consistency. So I'm imploring everybody to support, come together, click on that Discord, support, join the Kush Kemet African Empowerment Forum. And ultimately, this is your forum to grow, and ultimately we can start to manifest great things. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate that. So when we meet again, we're gonna reconvene February 21st. That's 2 Sundays from now at 7 p.m. We did this one early because of the Super Bowl, and we didn't really want to try to fight against the Super Bowl. And we'll be reading up to page 96 in the Destruction of Black Civilization. So it's page 17 to 96 is the introduction in the first 2 chapters. And yeah, when we meet again, we'll be focusing on that work and discussing what he has in there, and you know, trying to build around that. I'll just post that in the chat. Yeah, feel free to message me or Zach, and that's our Instagram page right there. And then you can find me on Instagram at The Hood Pharmacist. I'm gonna just throw that in there for y'all. So thank you for everybody coming. Any last words from anybody before we exit out?
I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you for hosting space.
Thank you so much, Alma. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate all of y'all coming in today. And hopefully we can continue this momentum. Please invite anybody else. Again, we haven't started the book yet. As he said, the 17 to, which you said 93?
96. It's up until chapter 3.
Up until chapter 3. So we definitely, if anybody else wants to join with us that you know is also some people that's trying to get these intellectual reparations, please let them know, and we'll get more information back out to them as well.
Yeah, my if you want to speak, you can go ahead as well. So you got your hand up. Oh, I see her message. She said this is great. All right, thank you. We appreciate it.
I will say one thing too. I think, part of the whole point in this, Zach, you mentioned it as well, as far as building, totally mentioned it as well. as far as building, I think as we go into kind of like this intellectual journey for like figuring out and learning more about our roots, I think, you know, it's always in the back of our heads like, hey, what role can I play? Or us helping put each other in positions to use the way we think as individuals, but also as a collective constructively, right? So like as we enhance our intellect and our consciousness, think about, okay, how can I be involved in building, right? Like what does all of this mean? Like what are our needs as African people? What are our needs as Black American people? And where do I fit into that? You know, like sometimes it's daunting when you try to understand, I guess, the full scope of like, okay, hey, what's needed? But like there is a simple step to start with. And, you know, that's where everyone's collective action becomes powerful. So like that's what we're all working towards. It's like increasing the consciousness to empower action, right? And so like that's where that political piece of AAPRP ties in as well too. Like, okay, hey, this consciousness is building for an action. It's not just about the talking, but the consciousness is necessary to be able to act and accordingly. And so, you know, that's definitely what, you know, this is about.
I say, thank you, bro. Gary, did you want to say something?
Sure. I appreciate the chat today. It was nice to hear from everybody. I really appreciate you guys putting this on, and I'm looking forward to more conversations like this.
Awesome, awesome. And if anybody needs the book, just send us a message as well. We'll send you that PDF.
Quick,
Okay.
I don't know if anybody wants to tap into the ASCAC meeting as well. I don't know if y'all have time for another hour with another Zoom, but if so, you can just email me at imlondon@gmail.com, and I'm gonna type it in the chat right now, and I can forward that to you right now because they're just now starting, so you haven't really missed anything if so.
All right, that sounds good. So this Zoom call is about to end in a couple minutes. I just want to once again give thanks, and then I will see y'all in a couple weeks, and I'll try to keep everybody informed and updated. All right.
Thank you. Peace.
Much love, and Abibi Fahodie, African Liberation. Got to add that in there.
Thanks, guys. Well done.
All right, thank y'all.